Hi, Yogi. Welcome to another episode of our Lights On podcast. Hello, I am Kat. I'm your host. I'm a yoga teacher, and I just love to talk about yoga and holistic health in general. So, our podcast is actually expanding, getting bigger, and embracing all kinds of holistic practices just because we are human beings. Human beings are complex. We're made of very different parts and very many different dimensions. So I think it's important for us to expand our consciousness and really welcome all kinds of healing, all kinds of wellness, all kinds of well-being. I'm super excited because we have another guest today, and we are going to talk about something that I'm incredibly interested on. So I feel like this will be as much as a learning opportunity for you as it is for me. We are diving deep into healing with Ayurveda and herbs. Ayurveda could be seen as a little bit of a sister philosophy to yoga, and it's incredibly important to allow us to get to know ourselves and to learn how we can really improve our well-being by making, sometimes tiny differences or tiny changes in our lifestyle that are a lot more appropriate to us and the way that we absorb food, the way that we react to the environment. So it's very much a science that looks at your life and how you can live better. I believe, and my guest can correct me if I'm wrong in a little bit because we'll dive deep into this, but Ayurveda translates into the science of life. So it's effectively all these ways that you can live your life in the best way possible, in a way that's very unique and personal to you, because Ayurveda starts by understanding you as a person, your body, how you react to the environment, how you process foods, and then sort of suggests changes and nutrition, and basically tailors everything around your particular profile. But I won't get too much into this because I do have a guest. This guest is Dipti. She's a very dear friend of mine. We've connected on Instagram over a few months, maybe a year, 2 years. Dipti is the founder of Thankfully Healthy, which is a company that she is very much running and pouring all her love and passion into. And it's a company that supports you dive deep into this knowledge of herbs, of spices, to use them as natural remedies and sort out all types of imbalances within our daily lives. Dipti started, and Thankfully Healthy was, we started as a company focused on making tea and tea blends. But I know that she's growing. I know that she has a lot of exciting plans. So we'll also get into that once we start this conversation. But I'm super happy to have Dipti today. She has an incredible amount of knowledge in terms of how we can use herbs, spices, tea blends, Ayurveda in general to fix a number of imbalances that she herself experienced and the majority of us experience. Things from digestion problems, feeling fatigued, not being able to sleep. So all these things we're going to be talking about very much from a lens of Ayurveda and herbs, to see how we very naturally can change our lifestyle for the better. Right, I won't go too much longer because I'm not the one with the knowledge. Dipti is. So this is what Dipti and I talked about.
Hi, Dipti. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited for this topic. I know that we've been trying to have this conversation for a while now, and we're finally doing it. So thank you so much for being here, for your time. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in a minute, but before, I do want to let everyone know, if you're listening, I'm losing my voice. I told this to Dipti as well before. Hopefully I can make it to the end of this podcast. I'll just try to sort of control my voice. And yeah, who knows, maybe you get some like unintentional ASMR with this conversation. So without any further ado, Dipti, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do, your Thankfully Healthy project? Yeah, the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you, Kat, for that. So yeah, as you know, my name is Dipti, and I am a holistic therapist, more like, if you want to use the traditional term, I'm an Ayurvedic beauty therapist, which essentially, if people don't know about Ayurveda, it's the sister science of yoga, and in more simpler language, it means like just the way with yoga you try and heal your physical aspect. It's more about related to your food and intake of everything, just your daily rituals, your lifestyle, how you move. It's related to all of that. So it's pretty much very simple. And I studied Ayurveda about 3 years ago. I've been practicing it ever since. It's just changed me or modified my life for the better. And I just try and share that with whomever I can in whichever way, in whichever capacity, and I can, and I couldn't be more thankful. It's just come into my life and completely changed it.
Mm. And sometimes it's often the most simple things that make the biggest impact.
Hmm.
So how would you mind sort of going a little bit more into detail into like your personal journey and sort of how you were when you found Ayurveda, and was there anything in particular that you were struggling with, or sort of what made you go down that road in terms of Ayurveda, and yeah, just your personal journey, what you started seeing as you started applying the things that you were studying. Yeah, how did that go?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love that. Uh, honestly, it almost feels like it was fated that this would
Mm.
happen. It's so
I
funny.
feel the same thing about yoga actually. I usually say that, I didn't find yoga, yoga found me. So I think maybe you can relate to
Exactly.
that as well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when we say, like, the universe has a bigger plan, we just can't see it now. It was sort of one of those things that happened to me, and I am honestly so grateful for it. Where I was, who I wouldn't have thought in 1,000 years that I would come back to this. And why I say come back is because as a child, like, I will sort of tell you my whole journey. I
Go
grew
for
up,
it.
I'm originally Indian. I grew up in India, in the big capital, New Delhi, and I was just like this another child. But I always, even as a child, as a little girl, I always used to have a lot of immunity issues. I was always that one girl who'd take off sick from school all the time. Um, I would struggle with hay fevers regularly every time the season would change. I would just fall sick. I would have a blocked nose, and that is, I'm not talking about the like, every other regular kid. This would happen to me all around the year, all the time, and I've always struggled with my health, and I sort of accepted, like, this is how my body is. I'm just, I have a weak system, and this is how it's gonna work for me. So much so that I used to have like skin issues and everything. And my mom always used to be into yoga. So I remember when I was in sixth grade, my mom sort of started my private yoga sessions. That's when I actually found yoga, and I practiced it, I think, for about 2 years in my life as a little girl. And it really helped me. But there are certain things that you just did in your childhood and you forget about it. I almost forgot about it. I was not too much into practicing yoga or anything like that. I've always had a very like sort of mindful approach to life, but in the most simple way. And then life went on, and I sort of chose marketing and public relations as my career. That's what I used to practice. And I got married. I moved to England, and considering, as you'd know, considering the weather of a country like India,
Mm.
which is extremely hot, I moved to England, and that too in the north. So I used to live in Leeds, and now I live in this
Talk
beautiful
about
tiny
polar
town.
opposites.
Exactly. And now I live in this absolutely gorgeous tiny town in North Yorkshire called Harrogate. However, it's insanely cold out here. I'm not kidding. Like, the temperatures in
Hmm.
between London and Yorkshire is like
Hmm.
5 degrees apart.
Hmm.
So it's really really cold most of the year, and of course, not to forget, like, how much it rains here, everything. So when I first moved here, it was a shock in every sense. Uh, so, I mean, my body couldn't take it. It was the same thing. I started falling sick more often when I first moved to
Mm-hmm.
Leeds. Uh, Struggled with my health all the time, but again, it was just in my head. It was like normal. I
Mm-hmm.
fall sick, yes, because I have a weak immunity. I never sort of dug deeper into it or
Mm-hmm.
did something about it. I just like normally would try to do a little bit on my own, but obviously resort to medicines as well. It
Mm-hmm.
was all going like this until, of course, I moved to Harrogate and sort of decided to quit my job in advertising at that point in time because I nothing was clicking. I had newly moved into the country, struggling to find a job, did not have a lot of family and friends. So I was
Mm-hmm.
not doing very well emotionally and mentally. Plus, obviously, not having a job that I was, really resonating with and enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to take a break and visit my family back in India. I wanted to take a long break. So I quit my job and went to India for about 3 months before booking my trip. I literally just wanted to do a course for myself,
Mm-hmm.
like sort of an experience, not a course, but like I needed a break.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to like
Just
press
for the sake of
pause.
learning.
Exactly, like press pause in life and just do something for myself without a rush. And I just decided I had never visited south of India and I had heard it's insanely beautiful. So yeah, I had made the decision and booked my tickets, and I think it was such a short journey for me to travel from Delhi to Kerala, which I think really helped me to make that decision. But also, since our trips are really short to India and we just visit our family once a year, so it was me choosing that over, spending a lot of time that I usually would in Delhi. But I think I really needed to do that, and it sort of came in very handy. I was able to make that decision pretty quickly, and I was quite excited to kind of travel solo, have this experience for myself, and I took it as that, and really excited. And I think once I reached within the first 5 days, it was like an eye-opening experience. It was something I had never experienced in my life because, of course, first I was traveling solo, I was living alone. So it was
Mm.
daunting, but also really exciting at the same
Quite a leap
time.
of faith that you took.
Exactly. Yes. So it was challenging in so many ways, but also just just that way of life. Like you had a routine, but a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful routine that, you know, sort of emotionally it's really nice, but also physically as well. It works so quickly, as it said, like with anything, if you start your physical exercise, whether it be yoga or your gym or your Pilates or
Mm-hmm.
anything, from the first day on, when you go to the gym or, to a yoga studio or just do your first session, that excitement you feel just from that one session, maybe an hour long, that you do even in your own home.
Yeah.
Imagine that you're doing that 24 hours. So you begin your day in a certain way. Like I would get up at like first 5:30. You you shower, that's the first thing. You shower and then you go to a yoga class. And
Mm-hmm.
then your yoga class is, near a river. You finish
Yeah.
that and
Beautiful.
then you're served food. And that food is something that, is prepared from scratch. Everything, but also the food that you're supposed to be having. Like ideally,
Mm-hmm.
if you would have had the time in your daily life, you'd cook it from scratch every single meal. So imagine
Mm-hmm.
you're being served 3 times a day that meal from, like, people who have the utmost knowledge of what you should be eating, the things
Yeah.
that are seasonal, the things that are grown locally. It's just a different kind of excitement in every possible way, emotionally, mentally, physically, in every possible way. You just feel like it's a different experience, and why haven't you done it till now?
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like a sort of a party for your body, but in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Not you
would you
like
say?
going for a holiday, but like a holiday for your for
Yeah,
yourself in
just
every
focused on
possible
like
good way.
health and your highest
Exactly.
or your highest self. Yeah, I totally
Yeah,
get that.
and I think especially because I wasn't into all of this. Like I
Mm,
wasn't like very mindful or very much focused on health. So it's like a new expanse. It's like a completely new experience that you're opening yourself
hmm.
to. And it's amazing how it makes you feel. You're just like, oh my God, this experience exists.
Yeah.
And that gets you
There's
so
another way.
excited.
Yeah, there's a better
Exactly.
way to live, and we don't have to struggle.
Yeah,
We don't have
yeah.
to keep sort of thinking that this is our normal, and when actually it isn't. It's
True.
probably an imbalance. What would you
Sorry.
say? Yeah, just because you mentioned sort of like the changes, what would you say were like the top two or three changes that you were like, no, I really need to implement this. Like, I really need to embrace this and go full on.
I mean, to be honest, Kat, I think my whole life changed after that
Okay,
holiday. The
fair enough.
way I would exist on a day-to-day basis, the way I would treat my body, the kind of food I'd eat, everything changed for me. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm soon gonna get to the part that, how can you do it or
Yeah,
anyone else can do
absolutely.
it?
We'll get
What
there.
are
We'll get
what are
there.
the easiest ways to kind of adapt to
Hmm.
this kind of a lifestyle, but something that's, not all out, but a sustainable, easier way to kind of do it from tomorrow, if you
Yeah.
like.
I guess just being
So,
more mindful about like you and
yeah,
how you're existing.
I promise it's simpler than
Mm,
you would think of it or how
yeah.
maybe I'm explaining it, but I'm just I'm talking about it because it's not just something that I opted for and my eyes opened and I came back, but
Hmm.
it's more like an experience. As I keep saying this, that it's like sometimes you just go out and for a holiday or like anything, and you just are exposed to something that you weren't aware existed.
Hmm.
So it was something like that, like a revelation for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
But more than just doing the course, it was about the experience, and I think that is what sort of uh, pushed me to kind of change
Yeah.
my lifestyle and changed what I do
And
and my profession.
when you came back to the UK, because obviously I know that you have a project very centered around the learnings that you and the revelations that you
Yes.
got on this course and this journey that you made to India. What would you say were the first few things that you implemented? When you were back in the UK, what was sort of like,
I
okay,
think
this is what
the
I'm doing.
first, yeah, the first ever thing that I did was stopped eating meat.
Mm-hmm,
That was the first thing that I did the moment I sort of came back to Delhi.
mm-hmm,
So when I came back to Delhi, so it's not like I'm on vacation and I'd go back to England and sort of then
mm-hmm,
start implementing it, because I think things like these with anything that's centered around self-care and I mean in a way spirituality, I
mm-hmm,
think this is one of the first things you sort of come in terms with is how you sort of exist. And
mm-hmm.
this for me was a thing that I just felt like my body doesn't benefit from it. It was just that thought, and of course your consciousness, you awakening your consciousness to that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh thing. And I think it was a no-brainer. Like I did not have to sort of tell this or convince myself of doing this. It was just,
Yeah,
it happened
it clicked.
naturally. It clicked and it happened like in a split second. I was just like, and when I came back, and of course your family is used to having you in a certain way,
Yeah.
being a certain way and eating certain
Mm-hmm.
foods,
Yeah.
and it just happened. Like I did not plan on it. Like I was asked, like there was a dinner being prepped at home or something. I can't clearly remember, but I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, I don't eat it anymore. And
Yeah.
that was the first time I actually told myself as well. So, I mean, that was one of the first ever things to happen with me, and I couldn't be more grateful. I think that was the starting point of me
Yeah.
getting into Ayurveda or realizing that I am getting into Ayurveda. I
Yeah.
want to pursue it.
And it's difficult for, when you have certain revelations, and could be almost
Yeah.
compared to like a sort of a spiritual awakening, because it is, you awake to
Yes.
something. And I've had similar revelations as well as part of my yoga practice. And then I remember a moment, and this wasn't necessarily connected to my yoga practice,
Yeah.
but I did come to a point where, for me, eating meat was no longer making sense. I thought,
Yes.
it's not for me. I had experienced a number of of imbalances, and a bit like you, like I just thought that that
Mm.
was how my life was and was supposed to be. I didn't look any further. I was like, yeah, I'm just very bad at digestion. I experience this
Yeah.
pain all the time, and that's just how it is and how
I
it's gonna be.
And it's quite a surprise. It's not just about a certain thing or a certain kind of food, but
Hmm.
when you have these revelations and sort of realizations to yourself, you do not need an explanation. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
need to be talked
Hmm.
about. You
Absolutely.
just have such a strong sense of belief
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this is what I'm meant to do. It's
That's so
it's
important.
very natural.
Yeah.
Why didn't I do it till now? It almost feels very natural because when I did it for the first time, I did not, and I don't think I've ever had till now. And it's been, I think, 4 years now because this
Hmm.
was 4 years ago when I went to Kerala, that there was a single day or I returned to this thought that why
Hmm.
did I first stop doing this? How did I do it? I
Yeah.
do not have a memory of a particular day or a particular
Yeah.
time that I took to kind of adjust. It sort of happened very
A
naturally. It
hundred
was
percent.
like part of the part of the bigger plan,
Yeah.
part of the flow.
It just feels
And
like
that's the
you're
beauty.
describing my journey as well, with some of the foods that I
Yeah,
stopped eating, or even some of the changes that I started implementing. Because, as you say, like, and that's such an important point that you've made. Like, you don't have to be rational about it. You don't have to come
exactly.
up with all these reasons why you're doing it. If it feels
Exactly.
within you that this is the right step for you to take it. It's you're being pushed. It's bigger than you, right? Like, it's not something that you
Yes.
choose necessarily. It's just like, okay, no, I there's no other option. I just have to do this. So
Yes.
you
I
don't
mean,
need
it just
reason.
feels like, just the way that you feel like, today I just, my body demands, and, I
Hmm.
just feel like going for a hike or for a walk. You don't necessarily question or put like a lot of logic to it.
Yeah.
If you feel like doing something, you just do it, and it's one of those natural things that happen. And I am just so glad that it happened that way, uh, because it just feels like it was part of the plan. And I'm so
Hmm.
glad. It was just, of course, like one of the building blocks in the
Yeah.
bigger journey.
Just the
So,
start, but nonetheless.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, coming back to the whole conversation,
Yeah.
uh, I was there for about a month, and I think every single day I just came closer to the person that was sort of hidden within me, and I had
Hmm.
no idea, like absolutely no idea, because I just went with a thought that, I want to take better care of myself. That
Hmm.
was it. And in this apparent journey that I was there, and this journey that began, I just couldn't understand how sort of meant to be it felt like within a couple of days. It felt like it was supposed to happen, and I just sort of kind of lived every single day, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And uh yeah, it just exposed to the idea of this life felt like what was what I was missing on, and
Yeah, your
this is
purpose,
something
your
that
your meaning of sorts, your path being sort of
yeah, I mean,
unraveled and
yeah,
made
I mean,
clear.
sort of, yeah, you're right. It was almost like a path being, your path being sort of brought to you.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I did not like it. There was not even one day that I felt like I am studying or I have books or things like that. I just sat every single day when, so they're like teachers that you'd have, and you'd just like the most casual setting that you could sit in. You could ask like a million questions to the person who's teaching you. And imagine the questions. So, for example, if I'm sitting in a class, I am asking that teacher that, why why am I digesting a certain food like this? How long does
Mm-hmm.
this food need, like the time to digest? What time, ideally I for my body type, I should be
Mm-hmm.
getting up or sleeping. These are the things that I think any layman walking on the street, any person, any friend, any family member, any sibling, anybody that exists would love to know, because it is about them.
Mm-hmm.
You'd absolutely, anything that
Yeah,
concerns you.
very
I think
personal.
that's how we are built as human beings. We become the most curious beings when it's about us. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, it's
Your
true.
eyes are wide open, your ears are wide open, and you just have all the time in the world because it is about you. You're so interested, everything fails to interest you that much. But when you get to know about yourself, your moods, your body, your digestion, you're just like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I want to know more.
And I think
And
that's why Ayurveda is also so special. It's because it's very unique
yes,
to you. It's not like this
yes,
sort of one size fits all, not at all. Like the point is for
no,
you to understand yourself better so that
yes,
you can then make the
absolutely.
changes that are appropriate and fit uniquely yourself, which I think it's very, very special. About that's the special thing about Ayurveda, I think, is just that uniqueness and that personal touch that you get. How would you say that Ayurveda helps us in general, like live a healthier life? Like, what are the things that Ayurveda really changes in you? And I know that we talked a little bit about it already in terms of like you just understanding about being a bit more mindful of your life in general. But what else is there? What would you say are kind of like the two or three things that Ayurveda helps us with in terms of living a life that it's better for us, that it's healthier for us?
Balance.
Mm,
For me, in every aspect that I've studied or found out or read or experienced, it all boils down to finding your balance.
mm-hmm,
And this could be in any way. It could be your emotional health, it could be your professional way,
mm-hmm,
your profession in your life. It
mm-hmm,
could be about your food, it could be about your emotions, it could be about your body. It's Ayurveda helps you find that balance in
mm-hmm.
whatever aspect or respect of
Yeah.
life,
And
of
it's
your
important
body,
to
of
recognize
yourself.
as well that we have multiple dimensions, as you say. It's not just about the body,
Absolutely.
it's not just about the mind, it's not just about your career, it's how we
Yes.
bring everything together. Um,
Yes. And of course, if there's a day, there are again multiple aspects to your life, to your existence, and Ayurveda applies to every single one of them. There's no
mhm,
aspect of your life where you can't apply Ayurveda, even if it's your profession. It does apply very much. And I suppose when you go more personal, like if it's about your body or just your well-being, I think Ayurveda sort of enhances, if somebody wants to understand, it enhances your way of taking care of yourself, really. And that's about it. You could, you know, nitpick, or you could dive deep, or
mhm,
you could try and understand what it has to offer. But it's mainly about taking care of yourself, and which is why what you said, that there's no one size fits all. It's you have to find your
mhm,
own balance.
mhm.
You have your own special body type, you have your own sort of special existence, I would say. And I feel everybody is quite special in their own way, the way they are, and the way you exist, and the
Yeah,
way you want to sort of have Ayurveda be a part of you.
yeah. And
It
Ayurveda
cannot be
celebrates
somebody.
you as well, which I think it's so good that you are
Exactly.
celebrated the way you are. You know,
You
there's no
want
right or
to,
wrong.
yes,
This is how you are, and you get to celebrate yourself and like own up to yourself because you know.
absolutely. And it truly embraces, I mean, the pace that you want to sort of welcome or have Ayurveda in your life, just the
Hmm.
way, as simple as how much you are able to kind of take care of yourself. Like we all love the idea, and we are all moving a lot towards, which is absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
towards being more aware of, taking care of yourself,
Could you tell
self-care, all of
us
these things.
a little bit about and fitting within this conversation that we were just having about like us being so different, and as you said, like us allowing ourselves to really nitpicking almost our
Yeah,
lifestyle and our diet and everything. Could you tell us a bit about like the three main compositions in Ayurveda? Because I think people are going to like to
yes,
listen to that a little bit more. Maybe they can sort of see if they identify more with
yeah.
one or the other, and how can they sort of like fit into like lifestyle changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Ayurveda basically has it sort of symbolizes and talks about individuals. So it says that every single individual has three doshas, which is majorly like body composition, if that makes sense. So it says that every single human being has a composition of three uh, doshas in themselves, which is identified as Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, and Kapha dosha. And every single human being has all these three elements. However, the percentage, as we've been talking all along, that everybody could have their own pace and everybody could have
Hmm.
their own balance in which the way they resonate with self-care or anything that they want to pursue. So considering you and me, you would have these three doshas in you and I would have these three doshas in me, like any other human being or living being. But the composition of these three elements is massively varied in every single one of us, which is what makes all of us so special,
Hmm.
according to Ayurveda, because we all have these, but in different sort of compositions, and which the element that is more dominant in your body would sort of, dominate and comprise your body. And then, along with, of course, complementing it would be, the special sort of beauties of these elements or doshas. So I will dive a bit deeper into what the Vata dosha means, what the Pitta dosha means, and what the Kapha dosha means, if that's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that we can talk about this like for hours. I know that because it's such a big world. But I think, yeah, I think
Yes.
if you could just sort of give us a little bit of a summary,
Yeah,
like three characteristics for each. I know it must be
sure.
difficult, but yeah, I think that would be super helpful.
No, I mean, the simplest way to kind of, and again, simplest way to kind of understand is the physical aspect of it, because I mean, we are so used to kind of evaluating it and we can feel it and see it, so it becomes a lot more simpler. But
Hmm.
again, these elements are not just limited to your physical self. It obviously applies to every single bit of your existence. It means that the Vata elements could be within you emotionally, physically, psychologically, in terms of your gut health, in terms of your body appearance, and all of that. I'll try and share characteristics that I resonate with the most
Hmm.
because, I mean, as a layman, when I started studying about this, the things that intrigued me the most, because I was completely unaware of it and what made sense to me, because as a layman, you want to be able to resonate to the science and
Yeah.
make sense of it. So, the Vata dosha essentially is one of the components, as I said, that exists in Ayurveda, and the composition that is used in Ayurveda to kind of get to know yourself and the science that applies, and however we follow it. Uh, the Vata dosha is mainly a component that exists in, human beings, and it is identified more like a air sign, if that makes sense. So the air element is quite dominant. The Vata means the air.
Hmm.
And if you'd essentially put it into sense, would be an air element in your body. So usually people with the Vata dosha dominance, they're quite sleek, they're quite petite because of that air element. They usually would have dry skin, again due to the air element. And that is the physical aspect of it. And then we can go deeper and deeper. These people would have dry skin and, brittle nails, petite sort of a body, and would usually have like a dusky sort of a complexion. Again, because of that element. But again, emotionally as well, when we go to the air element and we dive deeper, these people tend to get more anxious in general. They're quite confused. But again, like the air, they move quite quickly. So whenever you see them, jumbling between tasks, trying to do a lot, they always have a lot going on in their minds. So
Mm-hmm.
all of that qualities of the air element are quite dominant.
I
But
heard
again,
Vata could be seen a bit and I like this image because I have quite a lot of Vata in my composition, as you can imagine.
yeah,
And I resonated with that. And then I was given sort of this image of a little hummingbird, like going from flower to flower, flying
yes,
really fast, sort of jumping from
yes,
plant to plant. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's a
yeah.
nice sort of visual imagery to sort of understand myself a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, they try because of all of that, movement, the movement of the air. They try and do a lot. They want to do everything. They feel like they
Mm-hmm.
can achieve this, but obviously that leads to tiredness as well, as you'd imagine. So then they'd like to settle down and, uh, but again, because of that pace, you can have a massive drop as well. So again, Ayurveda brings to perspective balance. You
Mm-hmm.
need a balance, which is why, like these elements, when I tell you about the other elements, it would feel like, yes, that makes sense. Because again, the body does not just have the Vata element, it has the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It could be that the Vata dominance in your body could be a lot, but we can't forget that there is the Pitta element and the Kapha element that exists in your being as well. So our second element is the Pitta element, which is the element that is governed by fire. So the fiery qualities, you would see a lot of elements. A person who's Pitta dominant, you'd see a lot of fire element in their personalities and in their physical existence as well. So, for example, these people, they have, of course, as the word suggests, they have a very fiery, attractive personality,
Mm-hmm.
but also uh, physically, when we put the fire element into them, is I'm going a bit deeper because otherwise it's going to be really long. These
Mm-hmm.
people would usually have quite sensitive skin because, again, because of the fire element, it's too much. It dominates a lot of their physical being. So these people can tend to have skin issues or skin disorders a lot. They'd usually have, because of the pitta element, they have like a medium build. They're not very sleek. They're not they don't have a big build, but they sort of have a medium build. They have a fair complexion. You'd
Mm-hmm.
usually look at their nails and everything, and they sort of have like a nice shine to their skin, and it's all because of that fiery pitta. But again, if it's over dominated, if you have a like an imbalanced domination of the pitta dominance, they could have anger issues.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have a fiery nature. They could have like they'd want to be perfectionists. They'll always be standing first in the row to kind of be like, I can do this task, I can take care of it. They feel like they're independent and they're able to do it all. But again, if it keeps on increasing and if you kind of start seeing the dominance of the element a lot, it can cause a lot of like heat production in the body, which means heartburns, which means a lot of indigestion in a different way for pitta people. For example, with the vata people, because of the air dominance, they usually have indigestion problems that are related to more like gastric problems or constipation and all of that, all because of the dominance of air. But again, the same thing and indigestion for the pitta people could be more like heartburns and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely
Very,
different.
yeah.
Similar problem, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then again, the third element is completely amazing, very different. But it just shows you how amazing it
Yeah.
all makes sense when you actually put it into perspective. So for Kapha people, it's the element of earth that dominates them. And as of course the word earth, it's a lot of like, like almost like a brick sort. So these people
Mm-hmm.
have like very sort of big builds, bigger structure, would have a bigger build in their body. But again, with all of that earth element, they are the people with the biggest hearts. So your friends that you meet, or they tend to become your bestest of friends. They that have the biggest hearts and are all about giving, all about just listening to you, never talking about themselves. These are the people
Mm-hmm.
with the kapha nature. Kapha element dominated people are like very
Very warm,
humble, very
maybe. Yeah.
giving, very warm, and these people have like with the earth element, they'd usually have from the physical appearance, as I said, they'd have a big build, but also they'd have like the most supple skin, the most beautiful hair. Oil is in their nature, like it's a part of the kapha element. So their body or their appearance would be always very rich in like in the appearance of their hair or their skin. You can see a lot of that element.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, because of the earth element, the earth being or the brick-like structure being so heavy in their nature or their existence of the body, you would see that their digestion is extremely slow paced. So they can't like their digestion moves really, really slow. So they could whatever they eat, it would take like twice or thrice longer than what it would for normal person. So they tend to gain weight. And
Mm-hmm.
again, because they're so giving and warm and loving, they tend to kind of get attached very quickly to people
Mm-hmm.
with all of that.
Indulge a little bit more.
Yes, and then they hold on to all of that a little bit more. And when you look at the flip side of it, they kind of like if the kapha is extremely dominant and if it goes a bit into the negative side of it, they tend to hold grudges and they tend to just squeeze or keep people a little more closer than you
Mm-hmm.
would normally would. So they have a hard time letting go of people, or would keep a grudge against their friends
Mm-hmm.
and just have that clingy attitude
Yeah.
towards everybody. So it all, and I can go on and on because it's just so varied. There's no perfect way or words
Yeah.
to kind of explain these doshas, because you could dive into the
And we're
physical
so unique.
aspect of it.
The different, I guess, the different compositions and everything, and we're all made in different ways. So, yeah, we
Yes,
could go on and on about like maybe percentages and sort of how
all of
many
that,
we
and
got.
and
Yeah.
just going into the physical aspect, the emotional aspect, and the digestion aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just loads to talk about, and there's a lot of information available. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the simpler you make it, the more simple, because the moment we hear about all of this and the compositions and the element and the doshas,
Yeah.
I feel the easiest place to start is with yourself, because
Yeah.
I think you're the easiest person on the planet for you to understand Ayurveda, because
Yeah.
nobody knows you like you know yourself,
Yeah.
because you've seen your body, you've seen yourself, you
The
know
good,
your
the
emotional
bad.
vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
you know how you change according to the season. What are you, sort of reluctant to? How are you professionally, and how
Yeah.
are you emotionally? So, I mean, there's no better place to learn about Ayurveda for yourself. You just have to learn things and, sort of explore things about yourself in every aspect. And it just makes a lot more sense because, as I said, that as human beings, we have this tendency and this excitement to learn about ourselves in
Yeah.
like it's unmatched. It's like no other thing. So it's the easiest way for you to kind of delve into the dosha aspect specifically,
And that's a
you
beautiful
know.
segue as well, because I wanted to ask you, how can people get on this journey as well? I understand that obviously Ayurveda and, very much like yoga and very much like any other discipline or
Yeah.
philosophy can be very complex, but it can also be very simple, as you say, if we take maybe baby steps and if we start learning about ourselves and make the journey about ourselves to start off with. So, how can people get started on this journey of Ayurveda, and what are their first steps that they should take? What would you say is your biggest advice for people who want to very much start to learn more about their compositions, start to make those changes to their lifestyles to make sure that they are supporting themselves a little bit better?
There's no one way to do it. I mean, it has to be the way that you resonate with the most. But I do appreciate, as you said, that take baby steps. I think that is the best thing. And also, if you sort of simplify it and label it, not label it essentially, but just like uh keep it simple in a way that, delve into self-care is what I would say Ayurveda is to begin with. To keep it super simple, to keep it non-complex, it is about taking care of yourself. It is about sort of enhancing your outlook on self-care. That is what essentially Ayurveda is. It's the extension of self-care. And there's no easier way than this to kind of start your journey into Ayurveda, into like natural uh, care, into like just sort of trying to make things better for yourself in your daily lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as I said, there are 100 possible things that you can do. If you essentially want to start particularly and go deeper, is when I'd say that if you have the time and if you can manage it and if you're interested enough, then go on to understanding your composition,
Mm-hmm.
starting with Ayurveda and do it, you know, step by step, a particular way to kind of go all Ayurvedic. But if not, you're somebody who is just really interested, want to do certain things, but do not want to get into the complexity of the doshas and, identifying your body type and all of that. There's still very much a thousand ways for you to implement Ayurveda starting right now. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
specifically have to be for a specific body type or knowing about your exact body type to be able to start your Ayurvedic journey or do holistic rituals into your daily lifestyle or your self-care practices.
Mm-hmm.
uh, the easiest, I would say, I mean, I have these mantras which
Mm-hmm.
I share with everybody. It doesn't matter whether they know about Ayurveda or they don't. But I think there are certain things which I think we are learning from everywhere. It's sort of all coming to the center, whether it's holistic or not, but we are all coming to kind of into this learning and into this newfound visibility of, I
Mm-hmm.
think, consciousness
Mm-hmm.
is we need to start eating right. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the best things because
Absolutely.
Ayurveda focuses a lot on digestion, on gut health, on just being conscious and mindful of the things that you do. And I think the biggest one of those, if you want to start your health care journey, is look into your food because
Mm-hmm.
that's where it's all starting. You do not have to be a specific dosha to start this. I mean, we all are a composition of these elements and doshas, but it's sort of like it applies to every single dosha. In Ayurveda,
Mm-hmm.
we call it three doshik, which means all three doshas. It suits all three doshas, and that's what's called three doshik. So these rules apply to every single human being who's trying to kind of be mindful, be healthy without getting it all complex and
Mm-hmm.
getting all lost
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the nitty-gritties and this, somebody saying that, what's healthy, what's not. I
yeah.
think the most basic thing to do for you is eat right, which means just eat fresh. So
Mm-hmm.
just eliminating, you know, frozen foods, all of the foods that are actually not coming from nature, are not fresh. Because the thing is, a lot of the people also, there's this understanding is that what if I cook fresh and I freeze it and
Mm-hmm.
then I can eat it? That's a way of doing it. Yes, you can do it. But Ayurveda essentially says, and these are all universal rules, it does not apply in a different way to different people. It all applies to all of us in the same way, in the same sort of aspect of things. Is we eat food not just for energy, yes, that's a part of it, but food also needs to have life energy, which in Ayurveda is called prana.
Mm-hmm.
Life
And
energy
yoga
is
as
very
well.
important. Exactly. I mean, yes, you can eat food and it can fill you up for that moment. But later on, if you're not digesting that food, even the best food on the planet, if your body is not able to process it, it's of no use. If your body is not able to get the nutrition, get the juices out of that food, it's of zero use. It doesn't make sense. But I mean, I'd like to keep it simple. Just the way Ayurveda says is your food needs to give you life energy, which is the prana, which is the reason we consume food. And the older, and I don't have any like fancy or typical words or like,
Mm-hmm.
a different language to say it. I'll go very layman. I just know that uh, if your food is not fresh, and you can go on like, put it in the fridge. I mean, it's all a cycle. So the simplest way for me to say it is there's a cycle. You grow
Mm-hmm.
your vegetables or fruits, then the cycle goes on to those are being kept in shops, and then the next cycle would be then they're kept in big grocery shops. The next cycle is they're packeted with preservatives. The next
Mm-hmm.
step is that they're canned, and the ultimate thing is that they're frozen, which gives them the longest shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
The food, all of these, like no matter where in these steps which food you're consuming, you just have to realize from where we start, which is the first step on the ladder. Your food is being grown organic, fresh, and you just sort of pluck it and
Mm-hmm.
cook it then.
Yeah.
That's like the most amazing thing you can do for your body, because that food will not just feed your body, it will actually feed your brain, it will actually feed your soul.
Mm-hmm.
It has so much nutrition in terms of everything, like your vitamins and your minerals and your nutrition, all of that, yes, but it also has the life-giving energy. It has the
Mm-hmm.
prana.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you actual immunity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, as we keep moving along that ladder and we keep going to like packed and preserved and canned and frozen, all of those foods, yes, they will give you energy, but that's temporary energy because the life energy is already lost in that food. And that is why Ayurveda typically would recommend that you shouldn't eat these kind of foods.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, Ayurveda recommends there's nothing prohibited or banned in Ayurveda, which is one of the things I absolutely love. So, Ayurveda never says you can't eat meat. It's not one of the things it would ever says. It
Mm-hmm.
says no, it never says no to anything,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the beautiful things about Ayurveda. But of course, there are consequences of these things, and
Yeah.
which
And it's
is
about
why we,
balance as well, which you had mentioned before, right? It's not about like a yes or a no. It's not about the black and white, but
yes,
it's
it's
about
about
finding
finding the
balance.
balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And I, I think which is why we say it's different. I mean, you
Yeah.
adapt it at your own pace. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I understand that we all have busy lifestyles, and not necessarily everybody is home to cook meals from scratch all
Mm-hmm.
the time because we need to eat and we'd essentially have at least 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Now, those could look different to everybody, and somebody would, rather have a proper dinner than a lunch, and somebody would have a proper lunch than a dinner. So, Ayurveda definitely favors some things over the others, but it never says no to anything. And which is why I say that, you could be anywhere in the ladder, or you could choose the former over the latter, but you need to find your balance, because if
Yeah.
every single day, for example, you're eating something that's out of a packet or essentially ready meals on all of that, and you would, it's not me making a comment, or it's not somebody just entailing that, that is what I said, and this is going to happen. Not all of that, but you would yourself notice that when you are in the habit of, let's say, eating a lot of packed food or ready meals, you would never experience that energy in your body.
Yeah, and
You
that
would
lightness
never
as well.
feel like your immune system is strong. I mean, you can ask, that's where it all begins. You need to ask yourself these questions. How do I feel? How do I really feel physically? Do I feel the energy? Sometimes you're just okay physically, but you'd rather be like, I just want to sit on my couch the whole day. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm not sick, but
Hmm.
I'm just not feeling like it. And if
Yeah.
this starts happening a little too
Look at the
frequently,
food
you,
as well. Look at the food you're
yes,
eating as
look
well.
at your food, look at your digestion, see how you feel. Like you would know for yourself. And this is one of the most shocking things that I see. I mean, we talk about all of the things, but one of the things, and that modern science is recognizing that a lot of the people, and you see these reels over Instagram and Facebook all the time, that modern science has started recognizing it. Your gut health matters,
Hmm.
all of that matters. One thing that, at least one piece of advice that I can share on this podcast today is that, and it is the absolute truth, and you can sort of monitor it yourself. Every single thing that's wrong in your body or you feel is not up to the mark, or things that you can't sort of put a label to, can't recognize, can't find out what the reason to that is, even though you have the most perfect lifestyle or you're trying to
Hmm.
do your best. If there's anything wrong with you physically, or your immunity, uh, or you frequently falling sick, it there's something wrong in your gut.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
what it is. It doesn't matter whether you have a skin issue, it doesn't matter whether you have weak joints or bones, it doesn't matter whether you have,
Yeah,
um,
it's
let's
the
say, you're
gut.
more prone to like
Hmm.
cold and allergic rhinitis, sneezing. I mean, I can go on and on, from the most basic things you struggle with in your daily life, something like hay fevers, to complex things like diabetes, joint problems, and like keep on naming. I can go on to like cancers and tumors, people suffering. It all, I'm not saying that uh this could be the cause of it. I'm just saying that the root to all of this is your gut.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
is where it's beginning. That is the root that is causing it all. So, I mean, if you're trying to improve your physical or mental well-being, you need to look at your gut. And that is the only biggest advice that I can give it to anybody who's trying to understand, just understand, not even adapt, just understand
Hmm.
how holistic science works, how Ayurveda or how yoga works, for that, for a
Hmm.
matter of fact. It all
Absolutely.
asks you to take care of your gut.
Yeah, it's such an important part of your nervous system as well, and we don't really realize it. So, absolutely, I agree with you. If there's
Absolutely.
one place that you're gonna want to investigate first, is your gut, is your diet,
Absolutely.
is your lifestyle. And then for that, you do have Ayurveda and yoga, which leads me
Yeah.
to my last question, Dipti, which is because I know obviously like you went on this beautiful journey of like this amazing leap of faith that you took on yourself on sort of trying to understand a bit more about yourself. And it led you to Ayurveda, and it led you eventually to Thankfully Healthy. So I wanted you to tell us a bit more about your project and how you are helping others, nowadays through Ayurveda live a healthier lifestyle. So how do you connect sort of, obviously you learned a lot, you had this course, so how do you now connect it with your career, with your business, and the way that you support others around you?
I'd love to. I think this is my favorite part, isn't it? I should be
I'm
really
sure, I'm
excited.
sure.
But I mean, I'm equally sort of quite I think this podcast has been really amazing, because I don't think I've
Oh,
ever
thank you.
spoken this much in depth about, of course, starting my journey, where it all began, and all of that. But yeah, I mean, as I said, essentially, it was a leap of faith. I went and then I came back to England, and it it sort of, again, it was sort of fated. I
Mm-hmm.
came back, and unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, we were all in lockdown. I think I just landed in Manchester, and I think after just 2 days, the country went into lockdown. I
What?
was really,
What?
really, really lucky to have
Wow.
made it back home, simply because, I mean, I would have loved to stay in India, for a matter of fact. But the thing is that, of course, India being a country so heavily populated, the lockdown was really, really bad there. You were not even allowed to leave your house. And again, now, I was truly blessed because I was in this part of the country where I live in the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
There was this sort of relief and sort of independence for us to get out and just spend time in nature, and
Mm-hmm.
thankfully we have all the access to it. And yeah, I mean, it was the worst time for me. I mean, still, I hadn't planned on sort of adapting Ayurveda or doing something with it. I very much planned to kind of maybe go back and look for like a job, maybe
Mm-hmm.
part-time or like freelance in marketing. And on the side, I felt like maybe this is something that, I could pursue part-time. So, but
Mm-hmm.
again, the worst time to start looking for a job when we were all in lockdown, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew what was happening. The beginning bit of it, nobody had any
Yeah.
idea as to, are we in lockdown? What are we
Yeah.
supposed
What
to
is
do? What
it?
are we not supposed to do? What is
Yeah.
it really? So, I mean, we were all clueless, and it was just the absolute worst time for me to be jobless, if I put it that way,
Yeah.
but also the best time for me to have found, thankfully, healthy. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I just wanted to be there was this newfound love, and I wasn't expecting to kind of make money out of it, if that makes sense. I hadn't gotten that far. I hadn't thought about anything at all. I just wanted to kind of be at it. I wanted to kind of make it a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And rather, when I started with it, so I think my first, one of the first things that I did was I continued my practice of yoga, whatever I learned in India. And then I think from my course, I took a very different learning in my own way. I think everybody has a different way of
Mm-hmm.
sort of pursue their learnings and teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, for whatever reasons, I resonated the most with spices.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that happened. I don't know during what time in the course, what part of my brain was like, I'm gonna come back and just like make teas out of spices. But I don't know what part made me do it, but somehow I just
Mm-hmm. That was what
resonated
was
with it.
calling for you. That was your calling of sorts.
Yes, and I had no idea. I mean, I came back, and on one of these very random days, I just took out some spices and I made a tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that tea. And I sort of kept in mind that, yes, when I actually started working with the spices, I wanted to make like a sort of just a spice mixture that would be good for my immunity. Because, as I said, like my whole story as a little girl, which I sort of narrated to you, was a
Mm-hmm.
girl having a lot of immunity problems. And no matter what, no matter, like, I had no answers to any of it, neither did my mother
Mm-hmm.
at that point in time. But somehow I just thought that, maybe like I should try making spices when food heals you. This is the easiest things, because if you'll read about spices in India, the source, like how people sort of take their antioxidant intake, is through spices. Spices are
Mm-hmm.
really rich in antioxidants. And on the other hand, herbs like holistic herbs, medicinal herbs, they are very rich in prebiotics and probiotics. So they are your
Mm-hmm.
natural ways to kind of get all of these fancy things that we talk about now in skincare and
Gut
healthcare
health.
and all of these supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that we need prebiotics and we need probiotics. I mean, half of my life I did not even know what prebiotics are.
Yeah. But they're
We
part of
just
your
know that we
culture.
need.
Yeah, it's part of you
Exactly.
growing
I
up.
mean, to be very honest, I think they are the part of every single culture that exists on the planet in their own way. There are so many spices that are traditional to England, so many spices that are traditional to, Mexico or places like any place that you name in the world. They have their own spice, they have their own herbs that they've been taking for centuries. And the actual herbs that are rich in antioxidants and prebiotics and probiotics and a lot of the other things that we talk about in supplements now that we feel that we have not been taking and
Mm-hmm.
we need them for some apparent reason, but we don't realize that we have already been consuming it. And because it is also related when people used to actually eat their food and cook their food uh, in the old times, or just like our moms who used to prepare homemade meals,
Mm-hmm.
they used to be a part of our diet. When we started eating out, when we started consuming packed or ready meals or canned foods, is when all of this started disappearing and our intake of all of these things sort
Mm-hmm.
of went out the window. And now again, it's almost like a sort of a new thing
Mm-hmm.
that everybody is talking about
Yeah.
consuming
They came
turmeric, or
back full
everybody is,
circle back to it.
yes, full circle, and everybody's talking about consuming ashwagandha. But the thing is, we have been consuming ginseng, like Chinese have been consuming ginseng, Indians have been consuming Indian ginseng, turmeric,
Mm-hmm.
and cardamom and saffron, and all of these things that are natural digestive aids, which
Mm-hmm.
we were consuming all along until the time we were exposed to the fancy ideas of eating
Mm-hmm.
out a lot or eating prepped food, pre-prepared foods, and all of
Yeah.
these things. But we just have to, everybody is coming back, and still we are not connecting the dots
Yeah,
fully.
not fully. Mm-hmm.
Because if you look into your kitchen, and I think that is what happened to me, I also did not have back then when I started making the spice mixture. I did not have an full understanding of what I was doing. I was just trying to kind of put my knowledge of
Mm-hmm.
what I had learned,
To what you
trying
had,
to aiming,
effectively.
sort of attempting like an attempt to
Uh-huh.
kind of make like a spice mixture that would help me build my immunity naturally. And as I said, that since you're brought up in India, in some way or the other, you've always known that Ayurveda exists. Your
Mm-hmm.
moms or your grandmoms have sort of, in the passing, have kind of told you that do this because this is good for you. This is like an old tradition. But it was always, there was a science, there was a backup of science,
Mm-hmm.
there was a logic behind it, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't always bother to understand that logic, but there always was a logic. And
Yeah.
I think
Sometimes when it's coming
I,
from your parents, you're a bit like, oh, that's just like the
yeah,
silly things that
I
they
know
believe
about it,
in. You don't give them much value. And then once you
yeah,
you go down a bit and
absolutely.
learn.
You're just like,
Yeah.
this is a thing I know about. We've done it all our lives. I don't really think I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
have this fancy
Mm-hmm.
supplement. And
Mm-hmm.
that entire, you can go on and on about it, the marketing and all of it. It's fancy. Everybody's consuming it. It's great. It has reviews. But I think
Mm-hmm.
it all boiled down to sort of just having that long lost awareness of,
Mm-hmm.
yes, spices are good for
Yeah.
you, not knowing what they have. But I just made like an amateur mixture of it and
That's
consumed
beautiful.
it. And when I did it for a couple of days. And of course, like along with parallelly, everything was going on. I had already shifted to fresh meals because, again,
Mm-hmm.
COVID sort of
Yeah.
worked in my favor in so many ways
Uh-huh.
because I had the time to cook my meals. I
Mm-hmm.
had the time to kind of, we were not going to, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so funny how it worked out.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go
100%.
to big grocery stores because there were shortages of food, there was a lot of things. I sort of started experimenting because thankfully I had the time to sort of experiment. I had just learned a little bit about food, a little bit about, eating fresh, times of the day, diet according to my dosha. And
Mm-hmm.
I would just find ingredients that would align with my health, with my dosha, all of that seasonal aspect of it. And when you do these tiny steps, like a little bit of physical well-being, little bit of meditation,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of your food, eating according to your body type, drinking a tea or a spice mixture as I made just in hot water. When you do these 4 or 5 tiny little things, when it all comes together,
It's a big
you
change.
feel different.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing I think that I missed out on is, and I think it's a really intelligent thing which I hadn't looked at before, was I had one of my friend's parents visiting last summer, and they're both doctors, so they're not like Ayurvedic practitioners or anything, but they're both doctors. And one of the most intelligent things I've heard in a long time is, my friend's dad told me that it's all great, Deepti, that you're focusing on Ayurveda and food, and they're Indians as well, so they of course are aware
Mm-hmm.
about the concept and they practice yoga. But as doctors, they said that one of the advice that I can give you is one of the most valuable advice that I can give you is, more than what you eat is when you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I had ever factored in that advice a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Like I would be conscious, like I think we all are conscious that, there's lunchtime, there's a dinner time, there's a breakfast time.
Yeah.
But he essentially sort of told me that if you're having your breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning, it would be best for your body if you had that breakfast every single day at 8 o'clock in the morning. And again,
Mm-hmm.
it all boils down, it all links to your gut health. He said that you don't want your system to kind of wonder that where the meal is. If
Mm-hmm.
if you're sort of uh, essentially timing your system in a way that you're putting a habit, you're sort of guiding it that you'll feed it 8 o'clock in the morning. Your
Mm-hmm.
system sort of warms up. Ayurveda has always been understood as a preventative measure, as a
Mm-hmm.
preventative science system. So one of the most amazing things that Ayurveda says is the thing that actually digests your food is called the digestive fire, which sits, of course, in the center of your stomach, like the center of your gut. So the digestive fire is what digests your food. Every single thing that you put in your body is digested by the digestive fire, which in simple terms, it should make sense. It should, understood, like it's simple enough to understand it. So what he said to me was, if your digestive fire is working and, it's used to having your breakfast at 8 o'clock, the system starts working. It
Mm-hmm.
starts. And if 8 o'clock, you're not feeding your body the food, basically, all of the work that your stomach actually did to digest the food has gone to waste.
Yeah, I guess it's just the point here is to really keep it basic, keep it personal, and also keep it
Yeah,
check your go back to your roots, and see maybe what your mom and your grandma was doing to support themselves and see
absolutely.
how
I
you
mean, I
can
mean,
bring that more.
as I said, that with our lives changing so much, I think there is no one way, or
Mm,
there is no like following certain things. You need to
100%.
find the things that work for you.
Yeah,
So
find the
if
balance.
it's exactly, so if it's the time that you can manage, and that is the thing you want to begin with because you can stick to it and you know that you'd be really good at it. So more than I think what the food is, that you're actually having the food.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think that's how basic it can get, just like feeding yourself and feeding at the right times. And
Yeah,
then you take the next step. And
yeah,
then of course there are like so many simple things that you can do for your self-care. And I think there's so many guides, there's so many tools available right now. There's no other time like this.
yeah.
They're absolutely amazing people sharing their
But it's taking
knowledge.
that baby step, I guess, and then sort of
Yeah, I
from
mean,
there building on a routine that makes sense because I think that
yes,
sometimes we do overcomplicate self-care and as we said, like trying to keep
absolutely.
it simple and then from there you can sort of like build your routine. But I really just wanted to thank you so much, honestly, Dipti, for your time and just for all the beautiful insights that you shared today. I have one last question for you, and it has to do a bit more directly about like Thankfully Healthy in terms of like telling people how they can
Oh,
access
yes.
you, how they can sort of find you, and you know the current things that you're working on right now as part of your business and the things that you
Yeah.
offer.
So as we were talking about, uh, my spice mixture and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, keep it short. All of that led to me starting Thankfully Healthy Teas, because I was truly fortunate to have had this skill to kind of develop these blends on my own. And as I told you throughout, it was all inspired with my own personal journey. So it was not something that I just stumbled upon and thought it's a great idea. It was all truly a part of my self growth, and testing all of these spice mixtures actually led me to kind of overcome my immunity problems. I always had like terrible hemoglobin levels and everything. So I mean, it all, after just I think a couple of months of consuming these teas, when I went back to India again, it was just after a while, and I got my test done. I think I was shocked to actually see the improvement in my
Mm-hmm.
health, and it was all
Mm-hmm.
because of my teas. I have never been more healthier in my life. And again, this was just my story. And, of course, I'm married. And of course, I have my husband as well who lives with me. So he used to have, just like my journey, he used to have a lot of like indigestion problems. He used to
Mm-hmm.
deal with a lot of heartburns. So, of course, he was like my little guinea pig
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
this journey.
To see what
And then
works and if it helps, if it
exactly.
doesn't
And I
help.
mean, it was just we started doing this for ourselves. Like we were
Mm-hmm.
trying to solve our little problems in our little world. So I would make these blends for him. And then it's of course now been 4 years since I started uh doing all of this. And 3 years, 2.5, 3 years that I started Thankfully Healthy Teas. But thankfully, with successful, making of these
Mm-hmm.
blends and helping my husband and my friends and my family, when all of the positive feedback sort of made a bigger circle and we were confident enough, I just thought of starting my own little brand called Thankfully Healthy. And the first ever product that we have done in this are my range of Ayurvedic herbal teas, which are, of course, made from these amazing spices that I'm talking about, Ayurvedic herbs and flowers. So it's a combination of this. They're really, truly unique teas. In every single tea blend, we use like 7 or 8 different kind of holistic herbs that are all like natural digestive aids, natural antioxidants, natural pre and probiotics. So there's a very unique combination of these herbs, and we currently do 6 different types of teas. And this year, we are still awaiting for our raw materials to arrive in England. So for this year, we are going organic. It's a very sustainable idea. We are a sustainable brand, so we are all about making everything locally, making everything sustainably, keeping everything plastic free. And as I said,
Mm-hmm.
I make everything on my own, as you would have found out by now. So there's no any, other person making it. It's me who make these blends. They're truly very special to me. And we have our own website, which is called thankfullyhealthy.com. Our teas are usually available to buy from there,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll be restocking soon for this year. So you should have them very, very soon
Amazing.
available to you. And we do have some new exciting products as well coming to you. And again, the new products as well are like a revelation, sort of like, a product of my own curiosity.
As they
Uh,
should.
again,
Hopefully you continue to have many revelations, hopefully.
Thank you. I mean, I think as long as things and products are inspired from your own journey and
Mm-hmm.
you can resonate with them because they actually worked for you, which is why you want them to work for everybody. And I think this is my true way to kind of help others
Mm-hmm.
actually share my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And because I just can't count the number of people because we mainly sell in Yorkshire. That is where I'm based. That is where I'm selling at the minute offline, but online we of course do
Mm-hmm.
UK-wide delivery. But the number of people that I've actually met in person, because I think we did every single food festival last year in Yorkshire, and when I meet people and people tell me that, oh my God, I struggle with IBS or I struggle with indigestion all the time, but I hate to talk about it and it's
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, and I have immunity issues or I can't sleep and I'm anxious. These are the problems that people in
Mm-hmm.
reality are dealing with every single day, so many times in the day. And I think people don't consider this, give this enough priority, if
Yeah, they
if
just
if that
accept
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah, they just
And
accept it.
it's just become a part of, just like for me
Mm-hmm.
as a little girl, my
Yeah.
immunity problem became like a normal for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was a normal for me.
Yeah.
I did not imagine at that point that this could be changed. I
Yeah.
think that is what
It's the
is
same.
happening
Yeah.
with grown
Uh-huh.
up people as well.
Uh-huh.
If they have indigestion problems or if they have weak immunity, they
Yeah.
feel this is
I
how
used
they
to accept
exist.
it as well. I accepted the anxiety. I
They feel
accepted the
like this is
indigestion. Yeah, I
their
accepted it.
reality,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is what I found through Ayurveda, which is why my life revolves around it. And I think which is why the teas that I make are so, so special to me, is because just you wouldn't imagine or ever think that a tea could do this for me, but they're not teas. I think there should be a special word for them. They're almost like preventative sort of blends for you, because it's something that is all natural, coming from Mother Earth and the nature.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual flower can help you relieve your stress and your anxiety, or feel better, or improve your immunity, while we are dependent on these supplements and pills. It's just mind blowing how simple and how the science already exists in the nature, and we overlook it every single day. We don't even think twice that there could be something as simple as a spice blend or a tea that you could consume and actually improve your health.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dipti. I just feel like we delved into so many topics and hopefully shared so many interesting insights. I really want to thank you for your time. I'm super looking forward to see where Thankfully Healthy takes you. I know that this is only the beginning, and I know that you have lots and lots more coming. So I will keep an eye out for that. For those of you listening, I will share all the links to Dipti's website and social media so that you can connect as well and learn a bit more about them in the episode description. So it's there waiting for you guys to go check it out. But yeah, thank you so much again, Dipti, for your time, for your amazing insights, for taking the time to share your journey with us. Hopefully, it has helped people, and those of you listening that do not settle. I think that's a big message that has come through today, is just not accepting the anxiety, not accepting the indigestion, not accepting the issues that you're struggling with, because there is a lot of things that you can do to support yourself and to live a better life. And these things are often not complicated. Sometimes they're very, very simple. There are things that you can find in your own pantry, especially spices that you may already cook with. So it's all about taking those baby steps, and really turning within, focusing on yourself and seeing what it is that you can do to sort of relieve those things, because anxiety and digestion, in your case, Deepti, like a lack or a general lack of immunity, they're not givens, and they can absolutely be changed. And I think both of us are examples, living proofs of that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I hope this inspires you to take action. And yeah, one last big thank you to Deepti. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kat. Honestly, this has been so special. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm sure we'll speak very soon at some other stage. Thank you, Deepti. Bye.
Thank you.
A big thank you to Deepti from Thankfully Healthy. I'm so happy to have her on this podcast, and I'm so thankful for all the knowledge and all the insights that she shared here today. Thank you as well for listening, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this topic. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit more about Ayurveda. There's really an enormous amount of wisdom and knowledge. And it's certainly a practice that helps you live your best life in a way that's very personal and unique to you, which I think it's one of the biggest strengths of Ayurveda is the fact that we can really tailor it and it can be really bespoke to our own way of functioning, to our own personality, our preferences, our likes, our dislikes, and also what our body needs. So thank you for being here. Let me know what you think about this episode. Let me know as well if there's any other topics that you'd like to hear more about. As always, I really want to make this podcast as relevant to you as possible, so please do let me know what you'd like to hear about next. I hope that you're enjoying the fact that we are now branching out a little bit more outside of just the yoga space, but there's just so many beautiful practices out there that deserve to be celebrated and talked about that I couldn't resist. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at yogaful.studio. Instagram is probably the best way for you to learn a little bit more about me, my journey, and my classes. In the meantime, thank you so much again for listening, for subscribing, for reviewing this podcast. It really helps me grow and take these conversations to more and more people that may also need them, that may also welcome them in their lives. So thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm not sure when you'll be listening to this, but I hope you take care. I hope you give yourself permission to rest and relax today. And I hope you got some ideas inspired by Ayurveda on how to make your lifestyle a little bit more personal and a little bit more supportive for you, for your own well-being and your own health. So thank you again. Take care. I'll see you on another episode. Bye.